So you're about to find out if you belong to the 5% or the 95%. And depending on how you've been spending your time and your energy and honestly your sanity, the answer is probably going to sting a little bit.
Yeah, it really is a brutal statistic to confront right out of the gate.
Totally.
Because the source material we're analyzing for this deep dive, it doesn't pull any punches at all.
Yep.
It establishes this really uncomfortable premise right away. Basically, 95% of people who train consistently, like people who put in genuine, agonizing effort week after week, they stay completely stuck.
Wow.
Yeah, their bodies just do not change. Only 5% actually see the physical transformation they pictured when they started.
That is just wild.
It is. And our mission today is to figure out exactly why by walking through this specific 5-part diagnostic checklist from the text. It exposes all these invisible leaks in our daily habits.
I mean, I have to stop you right there because my immediate reaction to a 95% failure rate is just total disbelief.
Oh.
It violates this basic social contract we all signed as kids, you know? The one that says effort equals outcome. Like, if I chop wood for 3 hours, I have a pile of wood. If I study for a test, I get a better grade.
Right, exactly.
So how is it humanly possible to put in real work like showing up, sweating, lifting heavy things, and get absolutely zero physiological results? Are we just assuming these 95% are secretly slacking off?
See, that is the most common misconception, and it's heavily steeped in moral judgment.
Yeah.
We just assume if someone isn't seeing results, well, they must be lazy.
Right.
But the source explicitly strips that away. This is
Yeah.
not a discussion about laziness at all. The 95% are not sitting on the couch eating donuts.
Oh, okay.
They are in the gym. They're working up a massive sweat. They are exhausted. The gap between the 5% and the 95%, it isn't about a lack of effort. It's about heavily misdirected effort. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like they're pouring a gallon of water into a bucket
Yeah.
that has 5 invisible holes in the bottom.
Okay, so we definitely need to find the holes. And the text provides this checklist, starting with a question that targets the actual physical work being done. It asks, are you training with a clear purpose, or are you just racking up reps?
Right.
And the imagery the author uses here is incredibly visceral. Like, you're picturing the floor covered in sweat, your arms are completely shot, your heart rate is redlining.
You feel like a hero.
Exactly. To anyone watching, you are crushing it. But the text draws this hard line in the sand, stating that effort is not progress, and volume alone does not drive adaptation.
We really have to look at the neurology of why we crave that exhaustion. Why do we equate being out of breath with having a successful workout?
Yeah, why do we?
It all comes down to sensory feedback. When your muscles are burning and you are gasping for air, your central nervous system is just receiving this massive influx of data.
Uh-huh.
And that sensory overload triggers a dopamine response. Your brain says, hey, wow, we're doing something incredibly difficult. We must be making progress.
So it's basically a trick.
It is. You feel like a martyr to your own fitness routine. But moving fast and loose, throwing weight around until you literally drop, that is just movement. It is not necessarily training the specific tissue you were trying to change.
You know, it reminds me of someone trying to write a novel by just mashing the keyboard as fast as humanly possible.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
Right. Like, if you type 100 words a minute, but every single word is a typo, you look incredibly busy. Your fingers are flying, you're sweating, you're putting in maximum effort.
But you aren't writing a book.
Exactly. You aren't actually writing a good book. You're just generating a massive volume of complete nonsense. And the text warns against this specific trap, the belief that simply doing more reps is the key to fat loss or muscle growth.
That typo analogy is actually a brilliant representation of what is happening at a biomechanical level.
Yeah.
The text insists that we don't need more volume. We need to make each rep, as it phrases it, harder to fake.
Wait, I want to drill down into that phrase right there, harder to fake. It implies that when I go to the gym, I am actively, albeit subconsciously, faking my workout. That feels like a direct attack on my integrity.
It stings, right?
It does. Like, how does a person fake a bicep curl or a squat without realizing it?
Well, because your body is a highly evolved survival machine, and its primary directive is always to conserve energy.
Okay.
From an evolutionary standpoint, expending energy needlessly is just a really great way to starve to death. So your central nervous system is always looking for the path of least resistance.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, so when you pick up a heavy dumbbell and try to curl it, your nervous system immediately realizes the bicep is under extreme, isolated stress.
Uh-huh.
And to alleviate that stress, The brain recruits secondary muscles. It tells your hips to swing a little bit to create momentum. It tells your shoulders to hitch upward. It tells your back to arch.
Wow, so it's distributing the workload to survive the threat.
Precisely. It spreads the load across the entire chassis of the body instead of isolating it on that target muscle. You successfully move the weight from point A to point B, so your brain logs it as a successful rep.
But you completely faked the tension.
Exactly. You robbed the bicep of the precise mechanical stress it actually needs to trigger an adaptive response.
So the goal isn't just to move the weight. The goal is to challenge the muscle, and moving the weight is just the byproduct.
Right.
And the text offers a very specific mechanical solution to this. It says, we need to be holding the position longer, slowing the movement down, and forcing your brain to physically feel the target muscle working.
Which requires a massive shift in ego, by the way.
I bet.
Yeah, when you remove the momentum, when you eliminate that little bounce at the bottom of a squat or a chest press, you are suddenly much weaker. You just have to drop the weight.
Right.
The source makes a profound comparison here. It says, a clean set of 5 reps executed with agonizing, deliberate control will fundamentally change your body composition far more than 50 careless, momentum-driven reps.
But those 50 careless reps are going to make you sweat more.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to make your heart rate spike higher. And because we are addicted to that sensory feedback, like you said, we choose the 50 typos over the 5 perfect sentences.
We do, every time.
I imagine it's incredibly uncomfortable to slow down, not just physically, but psychologically. You don't look like the hero in the gym anymore.
Sure.
You're lifting way less weight. You're moving slowly. You might not even be sweating profusely.
You are sacrificing the theater of effort for the reality of progress.
The theater of effort. Wow.
Right. When you do a set of 5 perfectly controlled reps, like taking 3 or 4 seconds to lower the weight, pausing at the bottom, and driving up without any bounce, you are forcing the specific muscle fibers to bear the absolute entirety of that load.
And that's what causes the change.
Yes. That creates high mechanical tension. Mechanical tension is the primary biological signal that tells a muscle it needs to synthesize new protein and adapt. 50 sloppy reps just generate systemic fatigue. And as the text establishes right away, fatigue is a terrible metric for success.
Okay, so let's follow that logic into the kitchen, because the text builds a bridge directly to nutrition with the second question on the checklist. You could check your ego, you could slow your reps down to a crawl, you could create massive mechanical tension. But if you don't know what raw materials you are feeding that machine, the effort in the gym is completely nullified.
It is the ultimate bottleneck. And the author phrases the second question in a way that is really designed to be provocative. They ask, do you actually know what you're eating, or are you mostly just guessing?
Yeah, that provokes people because it attacks our best intentions. We aren't talking about the stereotype of someone eating fast food 3 times a day and wondering why they aren't losing weight.
Not at all.
The text is specifically addressing the person who is looking down at a plate of chicken breast, brown rice, and steamed broccoli and feeling deeply betrayed by the scale. They're eating what society deems good food, so why is the math failing them?
Well, we have to unpack the moralization of food that has dominated diet culture for decades. We have been conditioned to view food through this strict binary lens of clean versus dirty, or virtuous versus sinful.
Right, like an avocado is good and cookie is bad.
Exactly. And the psychological trap here is immense. When we categorize a food as clean like oats, avocados, almonds, or olive oil, we subconsciously grant ourselves a free pass on the quantity.
Oh.
The source dismantles this entirely. It explicitly states that what most people consider eating healthy is often just overeating clean food.
I think there is a massive cognitive dissonance there. People hear overeating clean food and their brain just rejects it. They think, but it's nutrient dense. It has omega-3s. It's not processed.
Yeah.
How can something healthy be the reason I'm not shedding fat?
Because health and thermodynamics are 2 completely separate vectors.
Oh, that's interesting.
They overlap, certainly, but they are governed by entirely different rules. You can eat a diet that is incredibly beneficial for your cellular health, your longevity, and your micronutrient profile. An avocado is objectively fantastic for you.
Sure.
But an avocado is also highly calorically dense. If the mathematical energy provided by those healthy foods exceeds the total energy your body expends in a day, your body will store the surplus energy. It has to.
It's just physics.
The laws of physics do not care about the moral purity of your food or how many vitamins it has. The math only cares about the totals.
The text highlights this with the concept of stealth calories, which is terrifying once you start looking for it.
Oh, it really is.
It brings up the peanut butter that didn't measure itself, the sauce that didn't count its own calories, and this is the wildest one, the most egregious lie in the modern grocery store: the zero-calorie olive oil cooking spray.
The cooking spray is such a brilliant case study in behavioral economics and regulatory loopholes. The nutrition label legally states it has 0 calories per serving. But if you look at the microscopic print, a serving is defined as a fraction of a second of spray time.
A quarter of a second. Who on earth sprays a pan for a quarter of a second?
Nobody.
You hold the button down and coat the entire pan until it looks like a slip and slide.
Exactly. You might be spraying for 3 or 4 seconds. Suddenly, you have added 80 to 100 calories of pure fat to your pan. But because the front of the can boldly claims 0 calories, your brain categorizes it as a free action.
It doesn't even register.
Right? You don't log it mentally. You've introduced 100 invisible calories into the equation. Do that for 3 meals a day, and you have entirely erased the caloric deficit you were trying so hard to create.
And the salad example in the text is even more devastating. It talks about a perfectly healthy-looking salad. You've got spinach, mixed greens, some grilled chicken. You're sitting at the table feeling like the pinnacle of discipline while your friends are eating pizza.
You feel so superior.
You really do. But the text notes that this virtuous salad can quietly cross 600 calories just from the dressing.
This is where we mistake volume for caloric density. Greens have immense volume, but negligible calories. Olive oil-based dressings, tahini, or creamy vinaigrettes have incredibly small volume, but massive caloric density.
Right.
2 standard tablespoons of a heavy dressing can easily be 200 calories. But most restaurants or heavy-handed home cooks will pour 4 to 6 tablespoons over a large salad just to make it palatable.
So you're eating 600 calories of liquid fat on top of some leaves.
Exactly.
You could have eaten a double cheeseburger for the same mathematical cost. And the worst part is, an hour later, you're starving because the salad digested rapidly, and you're genuinely furious that your body isn't changing.
This is exactly why the source mandates a specific intervention, tracking. It states that fat loss is about totals, not good food versus bad food.
So you have to measure it.
Yes. The only way to bridge the gap between what you think you're eating and what is actually entering your system is hard data. The text advises tracking everything for at least a week, even roughly.
Just to see the baseline.
Why? Because the human brain is demonstrably terrible at estimating portion sizes. The quote from the text is absolute. It says, "You don't know until you actually look."
It's the ultimate reality check. So you force yourself to look. You weigh the peanut butter and realize your normal scoop is actually 3 servings.
Which hurts to realize.
It really does.
Yeah.
You measure the dressing. You stop trusting the aerosol can. Your math is now ironclad. Combined with those slow, deliberate, momentum-free reps in the gym, the result should be guaranteed, right?
You would think so.
But the source introduces a third variable that acts as a hidden saboteur, one that can hijack your perfect math and your perfect reps. Question 3 asks, are you actually recovering, or are you just resting?
This transition moves us from the physics of the gym and the mathematics of the kitchen into the complex, highly sensitive biochemistry of the human body. You can input the perfect training stimulus, and you can maintain the perfect caloric deficit. But if the internal environment of your body is hostile, those inputs will just not translate into the desired output.
The text immediately attacks a pervasive idea in fitness culture, which is this worship of soreness. There is an entire industry built around the idea that you should be hobbling out of the gym, that if you aren't completely destroyed the next day, you didn't work hard enough.
Yeah, no pain, no gain.
Exactly. But the source calls constant soreness a warning sign.
This goes back to our earlier discussion about misinterpreting biological signals. We think soreness is a badge of honor, like proof that we caused the necessary muscle breakdown.
Right.
But chronic debilitating soreness means your systemic inflammation is running way too high. And more importantly, your body hasn't had the resources or the environment to repair the micro tears you created in the tissue.
A lot of people assume that the muscle grows in the gym while they are actually lifting. But the text clarifies that the gym is just the stimulus.
The gym is purely catabolic. You are breaking tissue down. You do not get stronger in the gym. You get weaker.
Wow.
The recovery phase, specifically sleep, is the anabolic window where the actual construction happens. If you view rest as simply downtime or, sitting on the couch watching television, you are completely misunderstanding the biological mandate. The text states that sleep is where the body rebuilds.
But the source goes into the specific cascading consequences of cutting sleep short, and it is honestly alarming. It points out that just one night of poor sleep can significantly spike your hunger.
Oh, absolutely.
I really want to understand the mechanism there because sleep seems completely unrelated to the stomach. Why does sleeping 5 hours make me want to eat an entire box of pastries the next day?
It is a profound hormonal disruption. Sleep regulates two highly influential hormones in the body, ghrelin and leptin.
Okay.
Ghrelin is the hormone that signals hunger. It tells your brain it is time to seek out energy. Leptin is the satiety hormone. It tells your brain you are full and can stop eating.
Got it.
When you shortchange your sleep, even by just a couple of hours, your body violently upregulates ghrelin and suppresses leptin.
So your internal alarm system is screaming that you are starving, and the off switch has been entirely disabled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, you don't crave broccoli when you are sleep deprived.
Mm-hmm.
Because the brain is fatigued, it seeks the fastest possible route to readily available energy and a dopamine spike.
Which means sugar.
Yes, you are biologically driven toward highly palatable, hypercaloric foods, sugars, and simple carbohydrates. All of that meticulous food math you calculated in step 2 is now under heavy assault by your own endocrine system.
And the text says it compounds. It isn't just about hunger. If you string together multiple nights of poor sleep, your body starts holding on to fat more stubbornly instead of releasing it. Even if you maintain the calorie deficit through sheer willpower, the fat won't budge.
Right.
How does the body override the math?
We have to look at this through the lens of evolutionary biology. The human body does not know what a calorie deficit for aesthetic purposes is. It only knows survival.
Okay, that makes sense.
In our ancestral environment, if you were unable to sleep for several nights in a row, it was rarely by choice. It meant there was an acute environmental threat, like a predator stalking the camp, extreme weather, or a famine requiring constant travel.
So the brain interprets chronic sleep deprivation as a state of severe danger.
It thinks you are in a crisis.
Yes.
And the biochemical response to a crisis is a massive elevation in cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Chronic elevation of cortisol changes the way your body partitions nutrients. It signals the system to hoard energy, specifically body fat, around the midsection, because fat is the most efficient energy reserve for a prolonged crisis.
Oh, wow. So it's fighting you.
It will literally choose to break down muscle tissue for energy instead of fat, just to preserve its emergency reserves. So you're training hard, you're eating less, but because you're only sleeping 6 hours a night, your body is fiercely guarding its fat stores.
It feels incredibly unfair, but it makes total biological sense. The text backs this up with a fascinating look at the highest tier of human performance. It cites a study following 175 elite athletes.
That data point is perhaps the most sobering in the entire text. These are individuals whose entire livelihood depends on their physical output.
Right. The text notes that these elite athletes found they needed about 8.3 hours of sleep to actually feel rested and fully recovered. But when their sleep was tracked, they were only averaging 6.7 hours.
They were operating with a massive sleep debt.
If professional athletes, people with million-dollar contracts, coaches, nutritionists, and recovery teams are walking around almost 2 hours short of what their biology demands, it really puts the average person's struggles into perspective.
It really highlights a severe cultural blind spot.
Right.
A person will spend 3 hours on a Sunday meal prepping their lunches down to the exact gram. They will spend hundreds of dollars on supplements. They will endure grueling, perfectly executed training sessions.
But then they ignore sleep.
They treat sleep as a flexible, disposable commodity. They will sacrifice 2 hours of the most potent anabolic recovery state known to science just to scroll on a phone or watch another episode of a show.
Yeah.
The mandate from the source is unambiguous. Sleep like it's part of the program, because it is. It is the biochemical foundation that dictates whether the math and the training actually work.
Okay, so let's look at the theoretical perfect student of this checklist. They are lifting with deliberate tension, eliminating the typos. They track their food, weigh the dressing, and stop trusting the aerosol spray. They are prioritizing 8 hours of sleep to keep cortisol low and leptin functioning. Biologically, mechanically, mathematically, they are flawless.
The perfect student.
But then the source pivots away from the physical world entirely, introducing question 4, which deals with the psychological timeline.
Yeah, the 3-week wall. This is the psychological threshold where almost everyone breaks, regardless of how perfect their biomechanics or their meal prep might be.
The text asks a very pointed question. Have you ever stuck with one approach past 3 weeks? And it details this incredibly specific failure cycle. You do everything we just talked about perfectly. For 21 days, you are disciplined, you're honest, you are consistent. And then the text says you hit a wall.
You always hit the wall.
Why 3 weeks? Is there a biological clock ticking, or is this purely mental?
It is the intersection where the dopamine of a new habit crashes into the slow, unglamorous reality of human biology. Let's trace the timeline.
Okay.
In week 1, you are fueled by novelty. The decision to start a new program releases a flood of dopamine. You feel in control, you are taking positive action. You might even see a quick 2-pound drop on a scale, which is almost entirely water weight and glycogen depletion.
But your brain interprets it as rapid fat loss.
Exactly. Then week 2, the routine sets in. The initial enthusiasm is fading a bit, but you are still riding the momentum.
But week 3 is where the environment changes. The text describes the emotional landscape of week 3 perfectly. It gets boring, it gets frustrating, or it feels too slow.
Because by week 3, the novelty has completely evaporated. Dopamine has flatlined. And more importantly, the true biological adaptations, the synthesis of new muscle proteins, the oxidation of lipid stores, they are happening at a microscopic cellular level.
You can't see them yet.
They are practically invisible to the naked eye. You are looking in the mirror every morning expecting to see the physical manifestation of all your suffering, and the mirror shows you exactly the same person who started 21 days ago.
The gap between the massive effort you feel you are expending and the total lack of visual reward becomes too wide for the human ego to tolerate. The immediate assumption is never, I need to wait longer. The assumption is always, this plan is broken.
Exactly. The individual thinks they have hit a plateau. They think their metabolism has adapted or that the diet strategy is fundamentally flawed.
The text addresses this head on. The common response is to seek out a fresh start. You scrap the working plan. You download a different app. You switch from heavy lifting to high-intensity interval training. You drop the balanced diet and switch to a strict ketogenic approach.
You are chasing the thrill of day 1 again.
Yes. You are chasing the dopamine of a new beginning to avoid the boredom of the middle.
But the text ruthlessly dismantles this strategy. It points out the tragic irony here. The plan didn't fail. It just never received enough time to work.
Wow.
By constantly pivoting at week 3, you reset the biological clock to 0. You endure the initial adaptation phase of a new program, you hit the 3-week wall of boredom again, and you quit again. You become trapped in a perpetual cycle of first acts, never staying in the seat long enough to see the narrative resolution.
It's an illusion of progress. You feel like you are doing so much because you are constantly researching new methods, reading new books, changing your routine, but you are just running in a circle.
Yeah.
The text emphasizes a core philosophy here. Consistency isn't exciting, it's just effective. How does someone bridge that gap? How do you survive the boredom of doing the exact same mundane things for months on end?
It requires a fundamental shift in identity. You have to transition from being a person who is motivated by the excitement of a new goal to a person who finds deep, quiet satisfaction in the execution of a system.
So falling in love with the process?
You have to stop looking for the montage sequence. In movies, fitness transformations happen in a 3-minute montage with swelling music.
Right.
In reality, fitness is just setting your alarm, eating the measured portion of chicken, doing the slow reps, going to bed, and repeating it on a random Tuesday when nobody is watching and you feel entirely unmotivated. You have to decouple your daily actions from immediate visual feedback.
You just have to trust the math and the mechanics over the mirror. Which brings us to the final hurdle. Let's say you've conquered the 3-week wall. You are in month 2. You are embracing the boredom. The reps are flawless, the sleep is deep, the meals are tracked.
You're doing great.
But the source introduces a 5th question, defining it as the invisible leak that sinks the ship.
Ah, the untracked snacking.
Yeah.
This is the behavioral leak that operates entirely in the dark.
The source asks, are you actually counting what you snack on? And it describes these micro behaviors that we all do. The post-dinner nibble from the pantry. The just one cracker that miraculously turns into 8. The untracked handful of almonds while you're making the kids' lunch.
We all do it.
It's fascinating because the text notes that we genuinely don't remember eating these things, but our body absolutely remembers the math. How does the brain simply erase a behavioral event like eating?
We are dealing with context-dependent memory and the psychology of amnesia here. The human brain categorizes events based on environmental cues.
Okay.
When you sit down at a dining table with a plate, a fork, and a glass of water, your brain logs that as an eating event. It registers the sensory experience, the volume of food, and the resulting satiety.
Right.
But when you are standing in front of an open refrigerator door at 10 p.m. or grabbing a handful of chips while walking past the kitchen island, the brain does not classify that as a meal.
It files it away as incidental movement. It's the equivalent of scratching an itch.
Precisely. Because the environmental cues of a meal are absent, the brain fails to log the caloric intake into your conscious memory. But, as the source strictly reminds us, the digestive system does not have amnesia. The body metabolizes every single gram of that untracked handful.
I think there is also a massive element of moral licensing at play here, especially for people who have dialed in the first 4 questions.
Oh, definitely.
The text describes a scenario where you have solid training and honest meals all day. You did the slow reps. You weighed the salad dressing. You drank your water. You have been perfect. And because you were perfect all day, when night falls, you subconsciously feel you have earned a reprieve from the rigid math.
It is an entitlement to relief. You feel that your prior virtuous behavior creates a buffer that protects you from the consequences of a small indiscretion.
Right.
But the text provides a devastatingly specific scenario that shatters that illusion. Consuming 1,000 untracked calories in front of a screen at night.
1,000 calories. If we look at the math we established earlier, a grueling 45-minute workout of perfectly controlled reps might burn, what, 300 to 400 calories if you're lucky?
At best, yes.
So you suffer for nearly an hour in the gym to carve out a 400-calorie deficit. And then, completely zoned out, staring at a television screen, you consume 1,000 calories of mixed nuts, chips, and chocolate in 20 minutes.
It happens so fast.
The text is brutal in its assessment here. This behavior undoes more than people realize. It completely vaporizes the deficit you spent the entire day carefully constructing. You go to bed thinking you are in a deficit because your meals were clean, but you are actually in a caloric surplus.
This is where we must look at how the entire checklist compounds. The source isn't presenting 5 isolated problems. It is describing an interconnected ecosystem of failure.
How so?
Well, why are we so prone to the 1,000-calorie screen time binge? Connect the dots. Perhaps it's because we failed question 3 and we are chronically sleep-deprived, so our ghrelin levels are raging, driving us to the pantry.
Oh.
Or perhaps we failed question 1, exhausting ourselves with 50 sloppy reps, creating a massive spike in fatigue that we misinterpret as a need for massive caloric replenishment.
Mm-hmm.
The leaks feed into one another.
The structure of the trap is terrifying when you lay it all out like that. But I was struck by the grace the text offers at the conclusion of this section. It doesn't demand monastic perfection.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't say you can never eat a snack in front of the television again. The mandate is simply, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to stop pretending it doesn't count.
It is a demand for radical honesty. If you're going to eat the 1,000 calories of snacks, you must log it in the math. You must own the data.
Right.
Because it is the self-deception, the pretending that the olive oil spray has 0 calories, the pretending that the handful of nuts didn't happen, the pretending that 50 sloppy reps are building muscle, that keeps you trapped in the 95%. The goal of this entire diagnostic checklist is not to induce guilt or shame. It is to generate clarity.
Clarity over comfort. So let's bring it all together now. The text moves into the verdict phase, asking the listener to basically add it up. And it offers a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
It says, if you went through these 5 questions and your answers were mostly a solid, yes, my reps are slow and purposeful. Yes, I weigh my food and know my totals. Yes, I prioritize 8 hours of sleep. Yes, I prioritize 8 hours of sleep. Yes, I have stuck to this specific plan for longer than 3 weeks. And yes, I track every single snack. Then you are already doing the invisible work.
You are operating in the 5%.
Yeah.
Even if the mirror hasn't caught up to the math yet.
Yeah.
The biological adaptations are happening. They just require more time to surface.
But for the vast majority of people, listening to this checklist was likely a series of uncomfortable revelations. They recognized themselves in the sloppy reps, the aerosol spray, the late-night Netflix snacking, or the constant program hopping.
I think we all do to some extent.
And the text provides a deeply reassuring reframing for those individuals. It states, if a few of them hit a little close to home, that's not failure, that's just finding the actual leak.
It is the ultimate diagnostic victory. To borrow from the initial confusion we discussed regarding why people failed despite working hard, you can't fix a leak you don't know exists.
Exactly.
By confronting the checklist, you have located the precise point where your effort is draining away. The structural flaw is no longer invisible.
And once you see the leak, you can patch it. But the final directive from the source comes with a critical warning about how to apply this new knowledge. It explicitly advises against trying to fix all 5 leaks simultaneously.
Which is the immediate impulse for most people. We discover we are doing things wrong, and we want to overhaul our entire existence by Monday morning.
Oh, the Monday morning overhaul.
Right. We vow to perfectly control every rep, weigh every grain of rice, sleep exactly 8 hours, meditate, and never snack again.
And what happens? You hit the 3-week wall with catastrophic speed because the cognitive load of trying to change 5 foundational habits at once is unbearable.
The central nervous system and the psychological framework simply cannot sustain that level of acute disruption. The mandate from the source is methodical. Pick one. Fix it. Give it real time.
Just one.
If your food math is a mystery, ignore your gym routine for now and spend 2 weeks weighing everything you eat. If your sleep is terrible, focus entirely on sleep hygiene until you are consistently getting 8 hours. Master one variable, lock it into your routine so it no longer requires immense willpower, and then move to the next leak on the checklist.
It is a slow, deliberate transition from the 95% to the 5%. Train smarter, not harder. Then actually give the smart training time to compound.
It requires a synthesis of biomechanical tension, strict mathematics, endocrine management, and immense patience. It is unglamorous, largely invisible work.
Which brings us to the final thought. The 95% fail because they are addicted to the performance of effort, the sweat, the heavy breathing, the exhaustion, the illusion of the fresh start.
They want the montage.
They want the montage. The 5%, the ones who actually transform, are the ones willing to check their ego, slow down, and do the quiet mathematical work in the dark when nobody is watching.
Well said.
The source material forces us to look in the mirror, not at our physical bodies, but at our behaviors. So if effort isn't progress in the gym, where else in your life are you exhausting yourself, just racking up sweaty, sloppy reps, instead of pausing, slowing down, and doing the invisible work that actually drives change?